My name is Beatrice. I never imagined betrayal would come dressed in paperwork, hidden behind numbers, and sealed with the signature of the man I trusted. Yet there I was holding a folder that told me everything. My husband had mortgaged our $1.8 million home. And worse, he had done it not for us, not for our family, but for her. His mistress. The first sign arrived like a whisper, one you almost dismiss because it sounds too cruel to be real. A friend who worked at the bank called me, her voice hesitant. Beatrice, she said, I should not be telling you this, but something is wrong. Your husband is moving papers you should know about. My chest tightened. What kind of papers? She hesitated. The kind that tie your house to a massive loan. Beatrice, I saw the numbers. They are dangerous. And your name is on them. First, I thought she was mistaken. My husband Daniel had always been ambitious, yes. Risky sometimes. But this? No. He always told me about major decisions. We argued about money plenty, but hiding a mortgage on our home was unthinkable. Or so I wanted to believe. But when she gave me the figure $1.8 million, I felt the floor tilt. My signature was there, she said. My signature. But I had signed nothing. That night Daniel came home as if the world was perfect. He kissed me on the cheek, tossed his jacket on the sofa, and poured himself a drink. I studied him like a stranger. His easy laugh. His casual smile. It all looked like a mask now. Questions screamed in my mind, but I swallowed them down. I needed proof, not just suspicion. The next morning I drove to the bank. I asked for the papers. They hesitated, but eventually placed them in front of me. And there it was, my name forged at the bottom of every page. My handwriting copied with clumsy precision. Beside it, Daniel's bold scrawl. The loan had cleared days ago. The money gone. Shock numbed me. But as I drove home, fury began to build. I searched his office. I pulled open drawers, scanned receipts, checked the trash. And then I saw them. Hotel bookings under another woman's name. Jewelry receipts for pieces I never received. A tablet left unlocked, glowing with photos of a woman I had never met. Dark hair, wide smile, posing in dresses from boutiques Daniel had sworn we could never afford. His mistress. The woman for whom he mortgaged our house. By the time Daniel came home that evening, I was ready. I waited until we sat down to dinner. He cut into steak, poured his wine, acted as if life was perfect. Then I asked, calm and sharp, Daniel, how much did she cost you? His fork froze. His eyes shot up wide. For one instant, panic surfaced before he forced it back behind a smirk. What are you talking about? You mortgaged the house, I said. For her. Silence pressed between us. Then he laughed, empty and brittle. Beatrice, you are imagining things. I slid the folder across the table. His eyes dropped to the mortgage documents. My forged signature. His real one. He went pale. He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. I had heard enough. I rose from the table, walked upstairs, and began to pack a bag. No shouting. No scene. Just quiet, deliberate motion. Because sometimes silence is louder than rage. By sunrise, Daniel would wake to a house stripped of warmth. He would realize I was gone. And my absence would scare him more than any words I could ever say. By the time the sun crept over the horizon, I was already miles away. I left before dawn, the suitcase strapped into the passenger seat, my phone buzzing nonstop in the console. Calls. Messages. All from Daniel. I did not answer a single one. At 7 a.m. His panic spilled into voicemails. The first was casual, mocking even. Beatrice, very funny. Leaving before breakfast? We can talk about this. The second was sharper. Where are you? You cannot just vanish like this. By the third, his voice cracked. Answer me, damn it. We can fix this. But I was not fixing anything. I had seen the papers. I had seen the mistress. And I had seen his arrogance as he laughed across the dinner table. I pulled into Claire's driveway, my sister. The one person I trusted with everything. She opened the door before I could even knock, her robe still wrapped tight, hair pulled back. Beatrice, she whispered. Her eyes flicked to the suitcase. She stepped aside without another word. Inside, I placed the mortgage papers on her kitchen table. She read them slowly, then looked at me with disbelief. $1.8 million, she whispered. And he forged your name? I nodded. My throat felt too tight to speak. Claire pressed her palms flat on the table. He is reckless, but this is criminal. He could drag you down with him. That is why I left, I said. If I had stayed, he would have spun this into my fault. He already tried last night. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. A text this time. Come home. We can work it out. You do not want this fight. I slid the phone across the table. Claire read it, her jaw tightening. He is scared, she said. And good. He should be. But you need more than distance, B. You need protection. At that moment, her husband, Harris, walked in. He worked private security, and the second he saw the papers, his calm expression shifted. He mortgaged without you? Forged a signature? That is not just betrayal. That is fraud. I exhaled. And for her. There is a woman. I saw the receipts. Harris nodded slowly. Then we move carefully. If he panics, he will do anything to cover himself. Anything. We spent the morning sketching a plan. Claire brewed coffee, Harris pulled contacts from his phone, and I sat at the table, staring at the evidence that had detonated my life. Meanwhile, Daniel kept calling. By noon, his tone had shifted again. Another voicemail. Beatrice, listen. You do not understand. This is not what it looks like. I did this for us. For business. For the future. His voice lowered. Come home before you make a mistake. But it was his mistake that had mortgaged everything. That evening, Harris arranged for me to meet Mara, a lawyer he trusted. She was sharp, deliberate, and the moment she saw the forged signature, her brows knit. This is not just family drama, she said. This is a felony. Forgery. Fraud. Misrepresentation to the bank. She looked me straight in the eye. You cannot let him frame this as a misunderstanding. You need to build your case piece by piece. Her words cut through the fog in my mind. I realized Daniel was not just a cheating husband. He was a man who thought I was powerless. A man who believed he could gamble away everything we had built and hide behind forged lines. By the time I left Mara's office, I had already decided. I was not going to scream or plead or beg. I was going to dismantle him the way he had tried to dismantle me. With paperwork, with facts, with proof. That night I switched off my phone. Daniel would not reach me. But as I lay awake in Claire's guest room, the silence pressed heavy. My daughter's room back home sat empty. My bed stood cold. And the house that carried years of memories was now collateral in his betrayal. At midnight, Claire knocked softly on the door. She handed me her phone, screen glowing with a new message. It was from Daniel. A photo. My empty closet. My wedding dress pulled down from its hanger, crumpled on the floor. His caption read, "Come back before I burn the rest." The photo of my wedding dress crumpled on the floor seared itself into my mind. Daniel thought he could rattle me with theatrics. He thought his threats would pull me back. But instead they lit something sharper inside me. Fear shifted into resolve. If he wanted war, I would build my arsenal. The next morning Mara called. Her voice was crisp. Beatrice, if he forged your signature once, he has done it before. We need every document you can access. Bank statements, tax records, credit card bills. Anything with your name on it. We will compare them against his transactions. Claire drove me to the house while Harris followed in another car, keeping a watchful eye. My stomach churned as we pulled into the driveway. The shutters were closed, the curtains drawn. It looked like a fortress, but the house no longer belonged to us. It belonged to the bank, tied to Daniel's reckless loan. Claire unlocked the side door with the spare key I had hidden years ago. The kitchen smelled faintly of cologne and whiskey. Harris checked the rooms, then gave a nod. Clear. I headed straight for the office. Daniel had always been meticulous about appearances but careless with details. Drawers were stuffed with loose receipts, contracts half-signed, and files mislabeled. I grabbed everything. Folders, USB sticks, even the small lockbox he kept under the desk. Harris picked the lock in less than a minute. Inside. Jewelry receipts, hotel invoices, and an airline ticket to the Bahamas, 2 seats, not one. I swallowed hard. The date on the ticket was only 2 weeks away. He had planned a getaway with her using money tied to our home. Claire's voice was sharp as she flipped through papers. Look at this. Payments to a boutique in her name. Thousands. All billed to the same credit card you both share. Mara met us back at her office and spread everything across the conference table. Her eyes moved quickly, scanning, categorizing. These transfers, see how they line up? He funneled money through 3 accounts before it hit her company. That is layering. That is deliberate concealment. Judges do not take kindly to this. Jack, a forensic accountant Mara had called in, opened his laptop. I can trace the flow. Give me 2 days and I will map out every transaction. If he used shell accounts, we will expose them. My hand shook as I handed him the USB. Make sure it sticks, I whispered. He nodded. It will. That evening I returned to Claire's. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. You are embarrassing yourself. Come home and stop this before it goes too far. Attached was another photo, this time of my daughter's playroom, toys scattered on the floor. He wanted me to believe he still held control of the family. But the more he tried to tighten his grip, the more evidence I gathered. Over the next 48 hours, Jack mapped the accounts. The picture grew clearer and uglier. Daniel had moved nearly $500,000 in under a year, all without my consent. Jewelry, vacations, payments to her consulting company. He even used my forged signature to authorize wire transfers. Mara looked at me across the table. Beatrice, this is ironclad. But we need witnesses. Someone from inside his circle. Someone who can confirm the mistress is not just an innocent bystander. Claire leaned forward. What about Carver? He has been on the board for years. He has to know. Mara considered it. If we can turn Carver, Daniel's entire support system collapses. Investors listen to him. I nodded, determination replacing the ache in my chest. Then we turn him. Whatever it takes. That night, I stared at the files piled high on the table. Every forged line, every receipt, every hotel booking screamed betrayal. But they also whispered something else, power. At dawn, Mara called again. Her tone was urgent. Beatrice, I just got word. Daniel is moving fast. He is preparing to accuse you of fraud in front of the board. If we are not ready, he will flip the story, and you will be the one on trial. Mara's warning rattled in my ear. He will flip the story, Beatrice. If you are not ready, you will be the one on trial. I stood in Claire's kitchen, staring at the mountain of files, receipts, and forged signatures. Daniel thought he could turn the tables. He thought if he screamed fraud loud enough, people would believe him. After all, he had always been the charming one, the man who filled rooms with easy smiles and false confidence. But now I had allies, and I was going to use them. That morning we met at Mara's office. She was already waiting, her suit sharp, her desk buried under folders. Jack had pinned a flowchart to the wall, lines connecting accounts, shell companies, and payments that all pointed back to Daniel. Claire stood at the window, arms crossed, her eyes flicking between us and the street below. Harris leaned against the door, phone in hand, silent but watchful. Mara spoke first. Daniel will try to drown us with noise. He will wave fake documents, twist timelines, drag your name through the mud. We counter with proof. Jack's charts. Your testimony. And Carver if we can flip him. Carver? I asked. Jack tapped the board. He is on the investor panel. He has seen Daniel's numbers but never the full picture. If he testifies that Daniel lied, the entire board will listen. Claire stepped forward. So we reach him. Tonight. It was easier said than done. Carver was loyal to money, not people. He had built his fortune with Daniel, and I knew he would not betray him easily. But Mara was right. Without an inside voice, Daniel could spin the fraud onto me. We arranged a meeting. Harris insisted on a public cafe. A place with cameras and constant movement. If Daniel tries to shut it down, he cannot risk making a scene, Harris said firmly. That evening I sat at a corner table, nerves tight, while Claire watched the door. Mara kept her phone on the table, recording quietly. Jack slipped in unnoticed, taking a seat by the wall. At exactly 7, Carver arrived. He looked older than I remembered, his eyes sharp but tired. He sat down heavily. Beatrice, he said. You should not have called me. I did not call you, I replied. The truth did. I slid one folder across the table. In it, forged documents, my false signatures, bank transfers, Daniel is about to blame me for all of this. You know it is not my hand on these papers. Carver's expression tightened. He flipped through the pages, his lips pressing into a thin line. Daniel said you were complicit. That you signed everything. Look again, Mara said softly. Compare the signatures. Look at the timestamps. They do not match. Jack leaned in from his seat nearby. And we have metadata from the server proving Daniel altered the documents himself. If you testify, Carver, you save not just Beatrice but yourself. Because if this collapses and you stay silent, the fallout lands on you too. Carver's hand trembled slightly. He closed the folder. You are asking me to bury a man I have worked with for 15 years. No, I said. My voice was steady now. I am asking you to stop him from burying me. Silence stretched. Finally, Carver pushed the folder back. If you put me on the stand, I will confirm what I know. But understand this, Daniel will not forgive me. He will come after both of us. Mara nodded. Let him try. The law is not on his side anymore. As Carver left, Harris followed him out, scanning the street. Claire exhaled beside me. That is one ally. Now we build the rest. And build we did. Over the next 48 hours, Mara filed motions, Jack expanded his financial map, Claire tracked Daniel's movements, and Harris arranged constant security. My phone buzzed with threats from Daniel, but I ignored them. For once, he was the one losing control. Still, the pressure built. Daniel moved faster than we expected. He scheduled an emergency board meeting, claiming he had proof of my fraud. He wanted to crush me before I could reveal the truth. Mara gathered us that night. Beatrice, tomorrow is it? He will try to paint you as the villain. But we have the evidence. We have Carver. We have the mistress if we push her hard enough. Are you ready to face him? I stared at the mountain of papers, the flowcharts, the proof. My chest was tight, but my voice did not waver. I am ready. He called me a liability. Tomorrow I show them I am his reckoning. At dawn, Claire shook me awake. Her face was pale, her phone glowing in her hand. "B," she whispered, "look." On the screen was a photo taken in the night, from outside Mara's office. Me through the glass sitting with Claire. The caption read, "We see everything. Try tomorrow and you will regret it." The photo of me and Claire through the office glass chilled me more than any voicemail or threat Daniel had sent before. This was no longer just financial betrayal. It was surveillance. He wanted me to feel watched, cornered, powerless. But he underestimated me again. If he thought fear would drive me home, he was wrong. Fear only sharpened me. Mara leaned over Claire's phone, jaw tight. "He has someone following you. Probably hired. We can use this. If he is reckless enough to stalk, he is reckless enough to leave evidence we can trace." She looked at Harris. "Get the plates. We need documentation." Harris nodded, already dialing one of his contacts in private security. "I will have someone pull traffic cam footage by morning. If Daniel hired a tail, we will know who and how much he paid." Jack tapped his laptop, scrolling through financial data. If he paid for outside surveillance, the funds will show up in the accounts. Men like Daniel always slip when they try to cover too many tracks at once. I sat silently, staring at the photograph. My own reflection looked back at me, caught like prey. But that image only fueled my determination. "He wants me to panic before tomorrow," I said. "We will make sure tomorrow is the day he panics instead." We worked late into the night. Mara outlined our court plan step by step. She would open with the forged signatures, then roll into Jack's financial map showing the layered accounts. Claire would provide a statement on Daniel's threats, including the photo of my wedding dress thrown on the floor. Harris would testify to the surveillance. And Carver, our most fragile ally, would confirm Daniel's deception inside the boardroom. But the plan went further. "We will not only defend you," Mara said, her voice firm. "We will expose him. Every receipt, every email, every forged line. He will have nowhere to hide." Jack flipped his screen around. "Here's the timeline. Transfers began 18 months ago. He moved small amounts at first, then ramped up. The big mortgage, $1.8 million, was the anchor. That was for her. He tapped the Bahamas tickets. And this was the final move. If you had not stopped him, Beatrice, he would have vanished overseas with her. My stomach clenched, but I forced myself to look. Every piece of evidence was a weapon now. Still, Mara warned us. Be prepared for the pivot. He will try something unexpected. A false witness. A forged document we have not seen. Or he may spin a story about you being unstable. He will not come quietly. Claire crossed her arms. Then we will not give him an inch. I nodded, gripping the folder of mortgage papers. He gambled our home for her. He thought I would collapse. But tomorrow, I show him I am not the woman he thought I was. The following morning, Harris confirmed the surveillance car's plates traced back to a private investigator Daniel had hired. Payment records tied to Daniel's business account. Another nail in his coffin. But with every step forward, my anxiety deepened. My daughter's laughter from the next room grounded me, but also reminded me what was at stake. If Daniel tried to paint me as unstable, custody could hang in the balance. That night, as I prepared my testimony, my phone lit again. This time not with a threat but with a video. It showed Daniel sitting in a bar with 3 men. His investors. His voice rang out clear, "Tomorrow she will choke. I have something that will destroy her before she speaks." I played it again, heart pounding. Claire leaned over my shoulder, whispering, "He has another trick." Mara took the phone, her eyes narrowing. "Good. Let him try. We will be ready." I exhaled, steadying myself. Tomorrow was the day. The plan was built, the evidence gathered, the allies aligned. Daniel thought he still held the last card. But he had no idea that the game was already over. As I tried to sleep, my phone buzzed one last time. A single message from an unknown number. "Check your daughter's school tomorrow morning before court. You will not like what you find." The message burned in my hand. "Check your daughter's school tomorrow morning before court. You will not like what you find." I barely slept. My body felt wired, every sound in Claire's house jolting me awake. By dawn I was dressed, my bag packed with evidence, Mara's binders, and my daughter's favorite stuffed rabbit tucked inside. For comfort, in case the day turned darker than planned. Harris drove us first to the school. His hand hovered near the wheel like he was ready to swerve at any second. Claire sat beside me, tense, clutching her phone. When we arrived, everything looked ordinary. Children filing inside, parents chatting on the curb. But Harris noticed it before I did. A man leaned against a black sedan across the street. Sunglasses. Phone in hand. Watching. Harris muttered, "Not a parent." He stepped out, crossing the street with calm but firm strides. The man glanced up, startled. In a flash he slipped into the sedan. The engine roared and he sped off, tires spitting gravel. Harris shouted the plates into his phone, already calling his contact at traffic control. My daughter waved from the school entrance, oblivious. Relief hit me like a tidal wave, but it carried a bitter edge. Daniel was escalating. If he was willing to stalk the school, he was no longer just a liar. He was dangerous. Claire grabbed my arm. "B, we cannot let him keep pushing like this. Today you have to end it. No holding back." By 9 a.m., we were at the courthouse. Reporters crowded the steps, shouting questions, cameras flashing. Mara walked tall, her binder hugged to her chest like a shield. Jack followed with boxes of evidence. Claire and Harris flanked me, their presence steady anchors against the storm. Inside, the board and investors filled the chamber. Daniel was already there, standing with his lawyer, his suit immaculate, his smile oily. He looked calm, too calm. When his eyes met mine, he smirked as if to say, "You cannot touch me." The judge entered. This hearing will determine the validity of fraud allegations against both parties. His gavel struck. The tension tightened like a wire. Daniel's lawyer opened first. "Your Honor, my client is a successful businessman. His wife Beatrice has fabricated claims out of spite. She has tampered with documents, created false signatures, and is attempting to ruin his reputation out of jealousy. We have a witness who will testify that Beatrice has manipulated these records herself." I froze. A witness? The door opened and my breath caught. Walking in was not one of Daniel's investors. It was someone I knew, someone I never expected. My cousin Rachel. She avoided my eyes as she took the stand. The lawyer's voice dripped with confidence. "Ms. Rachel, do you recognize these documents?" Rachel nodded weakly. "Yes. Beatrice told me she would forge them to get back at Daniel. She said she wanted to ruin him no matter what. The room gasped. My pulse thundered. Rage and betrayal twisted in my chest. Rachel, my blood, had sold herself to Daniel's lies. Mara shot me a quick look, her eyes blazing. Hold steady. We knew he would pivot. We are ready. When it was her turn, Mara rose like steel. Your Honor, Rachel has reason to lie. We have her bank records. $30,000 wired to her account last week, directly from Daniel's business fund. This is not testimony. It is bribery. Jack pulled up the proof on the screen. Transactions. Timestamps. Ironclad. The judge's brow furrowed. Murmurs filled the room. Daniel's smirk faltered just for a second. Mara pressed harder. Your Honor, this is the pattern. Lies, forgeries, and now bribed witnesses. Daniel has spent months hiding fraud and silencing anyone who could oppose him. Beatrice is not the liar here. She is the victim of calculated betrayal. I forced myself to breathe evenly. This was the pivot Mara warned about. An unexpected complication meant to break me. But instead of breaking, I felt sharper than ever. As the judge leaned forward to speak, Daniel stood suddenly, slamming his hand on the table. Enough. If you want truth, then hear it from me. His voice boomed across the chamber. And what he said next left the entire room frozen in shock. Daniel's outburst silenced the chamber. His voice rang off the walls, desperate, too loud, too raw to be rehearsed. You want truth? He shouted, jabbing a finger toward me. Fine. I mortgaged the house. I moved the money. But she knew. Gasps rippled across the room. Mara's hand tightened on my arm. I forced myself to stay still, though every nerve screamed. The judge's voice cut through. Mr. James, you will control yourself. But Daniel plowed forward. She was in on it. She wanted the money too. She wanted a better life, but when I gave it to her, she called me a criminal. She is the fraud here, not me. Mara rose, calm but sharp. Your Honor, let us strip away the noise. Mr. James admits to mortgaging the home and moving the money. He admits to doing so without Beatrice's knowledge. His only defense is this wild claim that she knew. Where is his proof? Where is the document? Where is the signature that matches her hand? Jack clicked the projector. Screens lit with side-by-side comparisons, my genuine signature against Daniel's forgeries. The differences were stark. Loops mismatched, spacing inconsistent. Then Jack showed the metadata, revealing Daniel's edits and timestamps. Your Honor, Mara pressed. These are not the hands of a wife complicit. These are the clumsy imitations of a husband desperate to cover his theft. Daniel's lawyer stammered, but Mara didn't stop. And as for witnesses, Rachel was paid $30,000 from Daniel's company account. She slid the printed records across. This is not credibility. This is corruption. The judge's gaze fixed on Daniel, unimpressed. Investors in the gallery whispered furiously. I saw Carver's face pale, his loyalty shifting with each piece of evidence. Then came the final blow. Mara nodded at Harris, who brought in a woman escorted by security. The mistress. The dark-haired woman from the photos. Her presence drew gasps from every corner. She walked hesitantly to the stand. Her voice trembled at first, then steadied. Daniel told me everything. He said the house was mortgaged. He said his wife would never know. He promised me a life in the Bahamas bought with her home. She turned to the judge, tears in her eyes. I believed him. But I cannot lie anymore. Not under oath. The room erupted. Investors shouted. Cameras clicked. The judge banged the gavel for silence. Daniel's face drained of color. His hand shook as he slammed his fist onto the table. You betrayed me, he roared at her. You were supposed to stand by me. But the damage was done. Mara stood tall. Your Honor, we submit this as final confirmation. Daniel forged his wife's signature. He mortgaged their home for his mistress. He bribed a witness. And he threatened Beatrice repeatedly. What more evidence do we need? The judge leaned forward, voice firm. Enough. The court finds sufficient cause to dismiss Daniel's countersuit in full. Furthermore, an investigation into Mr. James's fraudulent activities will proceed immediately. Until resolution, he is barred from accessing shared accounts, assets, or approaching his wife or daughter. The gavel struck. Final. Irrevocable. The room fractured into chaos. Investors whispered about pulling out. Carver stormed from the chamber, muttering about lawsuits. The mistress sat trembling, her head in her hands. And Daniel? He crumpled back into his chair, face pale, eyes wild. The image of power and charm he had built for years collapsed in a single afternoon. I stood, my legs steady for the first time in weeks. The man who had gambled our home, who had called me powerless, was now exposed before everyone who once praised him. But even as I walked from the courtroom, escorted by Claire and Mara, I knew this was not over. Daniel was too proud, too broken to accept defeat quietly. That night, as we pulled into Claire's driveway, headlights flared behind us. A black car idled at the curb, and through the windshield I saw him. Daniel. Waiting. The black car idled across the street like a predator lurking at the edge of light. Its headlights cut through the dark, pinning us as Harris parked in Claire's driveway. For a moment no one moved. My chest tightened. The courtroom victory was still fresh, but here he was, less than 3 hours later, glaring at me from behind glass. Claire whispered. He's lost everything, B. That makes him dangerous. Harris's jaw clenched. Stay here. Lock the doors. He stepped out, shoulders squared, walking toward the car. Daniel rolled the window down. His face shadowed but his voice sharp. You think this is over? You humiliated me in front of everyone. You ruined my name. But you forget, Beatrice, our daughter still has my blood. And I will not let you poison her against me. My blood ran cold. Harris leaned in. You need to leave before I call the police. Daniel sneered. Police? Half the board still owes me favors. You think they will jail me? You think she will win in the end? His eyes flicked past Harris, locking onto me through the windshield. This is not over, Beatrice. Not by a long shot. Harris snapped a photo of the plate, then pulled his phone from his pocket. Leave. Now. For a tense beat, Daniel just stared. Then he slammed the car into gear and screeched off into the night. The roar of the engine faded, but the weight of his words lingered, heavy and poisonous. Inside Claire's kitchen, Mara was already on the phone with the district attorney. He violated the protective order within hours. We have witnesses, photos, timestamps. They'll issue a restraining order extension by morning. I sat at the table, my daughter asleep upstairs, my hands trembling. Claire poured me tea but her eyes were sharp. B, you saw what he did in court. He admitted enough to sink himself. Now he's cornered. That makes him reckless. You need to be ready for his next move. By midnight, Harris's contacts confirmed the car had circled our block twice before leaving town. He's desperate, Harris said. He wants to rattle you, make you slip before the investigation closes in. But every stunt just digs him deeper. The next day, the fallout began in full. Newspapers ran the story. Local CEO accused of fraud after courtroom bombshell. Investors withdrew. Carver issued a public statement, distancing himself and promising full cooperation. Daniel's mistress resigned from her position at his company, citing irreconcilable circumstances. At school pickup, whispers followed me. Parents who once praised Daniel now looked at me differently, some sympathetic, some cautious, all curious. I held my daughter's hand tighter. That evening, another message came. An email this time sent from a burner address. Just 4 words. Enjoy the victory, wallet. Attached was a photo of our wedding day. The image cut deep, but instead of breaking me, it reminded me of how far I'd come. That woman in white had no idea who she'd married. This woman did. Mara advised caution but also celebration. He is unraveling, Beatrice. Every message, every threat is more evidence. The more he lashes out, the stronger your case becomes. Claire leaned across the table. He thought you'd drown in shame. Instead, he's the one choking. I exhaled slowly, steadying myself. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time, Daniel wasn't in control. That night, as I tucked my daughter into bed, she whispered sleepily, Mommy, Daddy said he's coming to get us. My breath caught. When did he tell you that? I asked softly. She rolled over, eyes half shut. At recess. He was standing by the fence. The words my daughter mumbled before drifting to sleep echoed in my head like a siren. Daddy said he's coming to get us. I sat beside her bed long after she'd closed her eyes, watching her breathe, the weight of responsibility pressing heavier than ever. He had crossed another line. Showing up at her school. Whispering to her at recess. This wasn't just betrayal or fraud anymore. It was invasion. It was a threat to our child. By sunrise, Mara was already on the phone with the judge's clerk. She spoke with rapid precision, her tone clipped. Your Honor, the protective order is not enough. He violated it twice in 24 hours. He approached their daughter at school. We need an emergency custody hearing. Today. Claire paced the kitchen, furious. He will not stop. B, this isn't about the money anymore. He's trying to break you through her. I tightened my grip on my mug. Then I will not let him near her again. If he wants to fight, he will fight in court. In the light where everyone sees. 10 a.m. We stood before the judge again. Daniel arrived late, disheveled, his tie loose, his eyes bloodshot. The smirk he once wore had twisted into something uglier, defiance laced with desperation. Mara presented first. Photos of the surveillance car outside Claire's house. The email with the slur. The burner account traced back to Daniel's IP address. And then the most damning. A sworn statement from the school security guard, confirming Daniel had been spotted at the fence during recess, calling softly to my daughter. The judge's face hardened. Mr. James, you were ordered to avoid contact. Do you deny this? Daniel leaned forward, voice sharp. She's my daughter. You cannot keep me from her. Beatrice is poisoning her against me. I have a right to speak to her. Mara's voice cut like a blade. A right? After forging mortgages, after stealing funds, after bribing witnesses? Rights are earned through responsibility, Mr. James. You have none left. The judge raised a hand. Silence fell. Effective immediately, temporary full custody is awarded to Mrs. Beatrice James. Mr. James, you are barred from all contact until further review. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. The gavel cracked down. Final. Daniel's face twisted, rage and disbelief colliding. He slammed his fist onto the table. This isn't justice. This is theft. She's nothing without me. I stood, my voice steady, each word deliberate. I was nothing to you, but now you are nothing to me. Gasps filled the courtroom. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed. Daniel's lawyer tugged at his sleeve, trying to calm him, but he shook him off, storming out of the chamber like a man on fire. Outside, microphones thrust toward me. Questions swirled. Did you know about the mistress? What about the mortgage? How do you respond to your husband's claims? I met their eyes one by one. The truth is stronger than lies. My husband called me weak, called me a wallet. Today the court called me what I am, the parent fit to protect my child. That is all that matters. The clip hit evening news within hours. My phone lit up with messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Some were supportive, others curious, but the reaction was the same. Daniel was finished. By nightfall, investors announced a mass withdrawal. His company's stock plummeted 10% in a single day. Carver resigned from the board, releasing a statement condemning Daniel's actions. The mistress disappeared from the public eye, rumored to have left town. But victory carried a shadow. As Harris checked security cameras at Claire's house, he frowned. The car drove by again. He is circling, testing limits. He knows he is losing, but he is not done. I stared at the screen, my own driveway glowing under streetlights, empty except for the shadow of Daniel's car as it passed. My chest tightened. He's desperate now. That makes him more dangerous. Claire placed a hand on my shoulder. B, you cannot face him like this. You already won in court. Let the law handle the rest. But I knew Daniel. He would not stop until he was broken completely. Court orders, lost money, public shame. None of it mattered to him if he thought he could still twist fear into power. He had to see once and for all that I was beyond his reach. That night, I wrote him a letter. Just one sentence: you lost the house, the money, the company, and now you lost me. There is nothing left for you to take. I sealed it in an envelope, then placed it in Mara's file. It wasn't for him. It was for the record. for the story of how far he had fallen. As I tucked my daughter into bed, she asked quietly, "Mommy, is Daddy gone forever?" I smoothed her hair back. "Daddy made choices, and those choices mean he cannot be here anymore. But you and I, we are safe now." She nodded, her small body curling into sleep. I sat beside her, watching her chest rise and fall. The weight of the day pressed down, but beneath it, a new strength glowed. Just as I closed her door, my phone buzzed. A new message. No threats this time. Just a photo. Daniel's face pale, his eyes wild. And the caption, "If I go down, you go with me. Tomorrow I speak to the press." The photo of Daniel with that final threat. "Tomorrow I speak to the press." Should have shaken me. Weeks earlier it would have. But now, instead of fear, I felt something else. Finality. He was still clawing, still trying to project power even as the walls collapsed around him. But I already knew the truth. The war was over. By morning, reporters gathered outside his office, waiting for his so-called statement. Harris had people on the ground watching closely. Claire refreshed the news feed every few minutes. Mara stayed calm, confident. "Let him talk," she said. "Every word will bury him further." 10 a.m. Daniel appeared. Cameras flashed, microphones surged forward. His suit hung loose, his tie crooked. The man who once commanded rooms with charm now looked hollow-cornered. He raised a shaking hand. "She lied," he shouted to the crowd. "Beatrice was part of it all. She forged the documents. She ruined me." But this time the crowd didn't lean in with interest. They recoiled. Because within minutes of his rant, Mara's team released the evidence file. Every receipt, every forged signature, every bank transfer. Side-by-side comparisons. Testimony clips. The mistress's confession. Carver's statement. And even the school guard's affidavit about Daniel lurking at the fence. The press turned instantly. Questions flew like arrows. What about the forgery timestamps? Did you bribe Rachel? Why was your mistress subpoenaed? Daniel's face twisted under the weight. He stammered, cursed, then shoved past reporters, retreating into the building. By evening, headlines spread across every screen. CEO implodes under fraud allegations. Investors abandon James. Court grants full custody to Beatrice. His name was poison now. His empire dust. That night, I tucked my daughter into bed with a peace I hadn't felt in years. The storm had passed. Claire poured me a glass of wine in the kitchen, her smile soft. "You did it, Bea. You didn't just survive, you won." I nodded, though my eyes still burned. He called me weak. He called me a wallet. But today he lost everything because he underestimated me. Mara joined us, her tone steady, professional. "And you showed women everywhere that silence isn't strength. Action is." I thought about that long into the night. Betrayal had tried to break me. Fraud had tried to drown me. Lies had tried to silence me. But in the end, the truth was my weapon. And Daniel's arrogance was his undoing. If you are listening, remember this. Never let someone convince you that your worth is measured by what you provide for them. Do not let anyone reduce you to just anything. Not just a wife, not just a mother, not just a wallet. Strength is not about shouting louder. It is about standing firm when someone tries to erase you. I faced lies, betrayal, and the collapse of everything I thought was safe. And I rebuilt stronger. You can too. Because in the end, the truth doesn't just set you free. Sometimes it destroys the chains your betrayer thought would hold you forever.